In my last video, we went over how to make the classic French puff pastry dough. And today, we're going to talk about one of the world's most treasured French pastries, and that's called Mille Feuille. I know I'm not pronouncing it correctly, French people. I'm sorry. I just can't, my mouth doesn't move that way, but basically it's Mille Feuille, or translates roughly to, I think it means 1,000 sheets or 1,000 leaves or something like that. And that's in reference to the layers of flaky pastry. And admittedly, it is an exercise in patience and there's some technique. But if you really want to know how to make this beautiful classic pastry, and it is certainly one of the most delicious things you will ever eat, let's get started on that, and hopefully stay with me till the end. So then the next thing you want to do is take your all-purpose flour and cornstarch blend and whisk that along with half of your sugar together until this is nice and light and smooth. It's going to form a nice smooth paste, and you want to make sure that you spend a couple of minutes whipping this pretty well so you get that well combined there. In the meantime, you can go ahead and put a medium sauce pot on your burner. You can use an induction cooker for this if you have one, or a gas stove is the second best choice, and then after that an electric stove, in my opinion. Just take your whole milk, that's 3 cups right there, bring it up to a scald. Then into that milk you want to just put the rest of your sugar, and I'm going to be putting probably, I would say maybe 2 tablespoons almost of this vanilla paste in here. I like a nice, very deep vanilla flavor to this. Or if you're rich, you can always scrape a vanilla bean and the pod into that. You just give that a nice whisk there. So bring that up to the scald, and in the meantime just keep whisking your eggs and cornstarch mixture. So make sure that you stir your milk and vanilla mixture so that nothing sticks or burns to the bottom. And then once you start seeing small bubbles form and it's starting to simmer and there's a good amount of steam coming off there, then take it off of the heat briefly there, and what we're going to do is we're just going to pour about 1/3 of that into the milk and cornstarch, and that's just to what they call tempering the eggs so the eggs don't scramble. And now this milk is pretty darn hot, so just keep it off the heat there for a second. And I'm trying to do this one-handed, so it's not always the easiest thing. And then just go ahead and put it back on. If you're using an induction cooker, just keep it at the lowest setting there, and scrape all that egg and sugar back into your pan here. You don't want to lose that. And then just make sure that you are whisking the entire time. Don't walk away from this. But real important, you have to make sure that once it does come to a full boil, then you have to cook this for a few minutes, at least 2, I would say 3 minutes. Don't stop cooking it yet right away, because what will happen is you'll think it's going to set up nice for you, but it's not done working its magic in there yet. So you have to make sure you cook this out for a couple of minutes. I'd probably give it 3 minutes. You can see it's really starting to thicken up nice. And if you are using a gas burner, just be very careful, because there's going to be hot spots, and once something sticks on the bottom, it's just going to burn and make the whole batch taste unusable. So okay, I've given this pastry cream here a couple of minutes extra on the low heat, and what you should end up here with is a beautiful rich yellow custard, and your whole room should smell like vanilla. Make sure that you're stopping the cooking process by stirring it for a little bit in that cold water. So then once you get that strained, just spread this out and chill this in the freezer for probably at least 15 minutes, and then you can chill it down completely in the refrigerator for an hour or so before we whip in this butter. So also just make sure that you put some plastic wrap over the top of this so that it doesn't form any kind of a skin on it. So let's finish this, putting this mousseline here together. First I'm going to scrape this pastry cream into the bowl of a stand mixer here. This pastry cream should be around 60-65 degrees, like a cool room temperature. Shouldn't be cold straight out of the refrigerator. So we're good on that. So first we're going to fit this mixer with the whisk and get this whipped up real well on high for a minute. So then you can reduce the speed a little bit. Now you should have cool room temperature butter, not melted and not cold at all, just room temperature. This is around 60 degrees or so, unsalted, 82% European butter. And just start adding that in there. We're going to put in 8 ounces of this butter into this, just a little bit at a time, just like as if we were making a buttercream. It's essentially like a German buttercream, by the way. So then when you're done, you should have something like that, nice and shiny and silky smooth. That's what you're looking for, the texture that you want on that. So now it's important, you have to let this set up in the refrigerator. You could just I'm going to transfer it into this bowl here and then let this set for a couple of hours before we start to assemble these pastries. So the first thing I'm going to do here is just lightly flour this. Now this dough here, the batch size that I gave you down in the description box, is good for 2 Mille Feuille strips. So just eye it up and cut this straight down the center with a sharp knife. You can measure it if you want, but I think that's pretty close. So we're going to do one of these strips here at a time. So just give it a dusting. So what we're trying to do here with this is roll this out to the size of a half sheet. These are commercial half sheets, so this is going to be 12 by 17 or something like that. Yeah, 12 by 17. So what I wanted to do is fill this half sheet up completely in a nice thin, even layer. So that's the first step here. Also not trying to work a lot of flour into this as well. So in case I didn't mention it, obviously you should have your oven preheating at this point, and you want to get that up fairly hot to 400 degrees for the first 20 minutes of baking. That should do it. I would recommend folding this to get it onto the sheet pan here. And I am using parchment for this. If you don't have parchment, you can try just butter the pan as well. Now, if you don't have a dough docker, which I do not, just take a dinner fork and dock this dough just about every half inch to an inch or so. Just dock this. That's just going to keep it from puffing up too much in any one given spot. You want to try to get this baked up fairly even. Now, before you put this in the oven, you can just put another parchment sheet on top and another half sheet pan for the first 20 minutes just to keep it from rising too much. But the best way to do this is if you have one of these cooling screens like that fits on a half sheet, just put it on top just for the first 20 minutes. So just put this in the center rack at 400 for 20 minutes and don't walk away from it. Set a timer, and you may end up having to flip it around once or twice just to make sure there's no hot spots. Okay, so after 20 minutes, pull the pastry out here, and what we're going to do is remove this wire screen and then turn the oven down to 300 and cool the oven off a little bit so it doesn't burn. So turn the oven back to 300 and put this back in for about another 20-30 minutes. Okay, so once you get your pastry out of the oven and it's nice and golden brown the whole way through, then what I did here is I trimmed up the sides. And what you want here with this is you want 3 pieces, you want 3 strips of pastry from this. So you're going to have a long serrated or a slicer knife like that. And what you want to do here is trim this up to 9 inches by, this is a little more than 12, but that's okay because some of the edges might crumble off anyways. This is very flaky pastry. So what we're going to do here is just kind of, I'm going to put my tape measure down here. Hopefully you can see that. And I'm just going to make a mark there at 3 and 6 and do the same thing over here, just at 3 and 6. That'll give you a little bit of an idea here what you're doing. And then just carefully line those up and cut that fairly evenly. Just cut straight down through at both those marks. And if you have to trim it up a little bit, that's fine. So save your nicest strip for the top. I'd say my nicest strip here is going to end up being this one here. So we're going to decorate this one. Okay, so once you have your fondant to a nice pourable consistency, then just put a little bit of this. We don't need a lot into a little glass bowl here. So then I'm just going to take a palette knife here and work some of this cocoa into this fondant, and maybe just a dab of the simple syrup should be good in there as well to thin that out. And you have to make sure there's absolutely no lumps in there, because this little bit here has to be piped to stripe across the top of our pastries. So just make sure you take care of this before you even start to get ready to decorate your Mille Feuille, because this has to be ready to go and in the piping bag. So just make sure there's no little lumps in there, and that it's completely thin. So then what you want for this, ideally, if you just have one of these little disposable bags and a very, not your smallest tip, if you have just the regular home kitchen Wilton set or whatever. I'm not sure what, these aren't marked, so, oh wait, yes it is. This says a 4. This is a 4, a Tico 4 tip. Just an open, smallish tip. And so just put this in here. You can twist that off and just kind of just hold it up like that in your hand, and then you can put that into your bag and just scrape this out, get that ready to go. Okay, so we're going to start out here assembling this with the fondant, and it just should be thinned out here and in a pourable consistency. It is somewhat important, I would say, to work a little quickly with this because it does start to set up rather quickly. Let's just take a small palette knife and try to get an even, clean coating across the entire top. And I'm just going to do this top first so it has a little bit of time to set up, a little bit of time to set up before we assemble this and cut it. This is so flaky, it's hard to get a clean top. So once you get that on the top there, then you're just going to take your little bit of chocolate that you have here and just go across the top. Try to get it straight. Try to get the lines somewhat parallel because it just looks better that way, but definitely doesn't have to be perfect. I usually like to do 6 stripes across the top of these. So then working quickly, you're just going to take a paring knife here and just going back and forth, clean the tip as you're moving along. You're just going back and forth to get that, I don't know what you call this, I think it's maybe a herringbone pattern, I'm not sure. So then when you're done with that, just move that out of your way a little bit. I'm going to use this long bread tool that I have to transfer these carefully, just so nothing breaks, because these are rather delicate. If they're baked properly, they're pretty delicate, flaky. So then try to give this an even layer of the mousseline. I'm not really sure exactly how much of this it's going to take, but you want to try to get both of the layers as even as possible. So I don't know, that might be 8-10 ounces, maybe something like that. Then just take your small palette knife here and give it a nice even coat. And if you want, you can always weigh your mousseline out so you know exactly how much of a layer you're putting in there, but you may have to, as you can see there, it's already kind of going across the side, over the side. That's okay. We're going to clean this up then anyways. So then we work this we're going to work this middle layer right here on top of that layer. Get it everything as even as you can. So once you get your second layer of pastry on there, then set that to the side and move your top front and center. And now you should get 6 2-inch pieces out of this. So I'm just going to kind of eye this up with my tape measure here and cut this as evenly as I can down piece by piece. 2, 4, 6, 28, on the 10, and on the 12. Oh, look, there's a little piece there. I wonder what I'm going to do with that. Throw it away? No way. I'm going to eat that. Then move your crumbs, put the pastry back here, and now, just trim that up just a little bit. It's a little sloppy there. Okay, that's better. So then I would use a palette or I would use a bench knife for this and just go ahead and try to evenly get these back on the top here. So there you have it. You definitely can firm these up if you're not in a hurry in the freezer and probably get cleaner cuts by firming this up. But you can just square things off here. I definitely would recommend putting this in the freezer for a little while and just let things firm up before you slice down through the layers. But at least this way, if you cut your top first, then you're not messing up the beautiful design we made here. So I'm going to put this in the freezer probably for an hour or two just to firm this up first, and then we're going to cut these up here piece by piece, and I'm going to try one of these beautiful little pastries. Alright, Well, if you've made it all the way till the end here with me, I appreciate it. Thank you. I know it's quite a journey making this classic Mille Feuille pastry, but it certainly is a looker. It's a beautiful piece of pastry, and now I'm going to get to try this pastry here, and I'm going to let you know what I think about it. I don't know if you can see this or not, but the flakiest, most incredible pastry. Wow, wow, wow. All I could really say is ridiculously delicious. This is just off the charts. Absolutely incredible. The mousseline is the smoothest, most voluptuous pastry cream I've ever eaten. And when you combine that delicious vanilla mousseline with this incredibly flaky, buttery pastry and that delicious finishing touch of that fondant, it's just really exquisite. Certainly one of the absolute best French pastries out there. I'm sure if you ask 100 random professional French pastry chefs what their favorite pastry was, probably 50 of them would mention this as one of their top pastries to make. And like I said, it is a bit challenging, and there's some technique and patience involved in this, but anyone can do it if the interest is there, and I hope that you will try this, one of the world's classic pastry dishes. All of the information, the weights, measures, as always, will be down in the description box. So if you do finish this and get all the way to the end and give it a try, please leave me a thumbs up, subscribe, and comment down below, and I'd really appreciate that. So I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.